It is a 5-star week for Notre Dame on the recruiting trail. Notre Dame picking up yet another pledge and a second 5-star this week. We're going to break it down in this video with Blue and Gold Tyler James. Folks, please do hit the thumbs up on this. Subscribe to the Blue and Gold YouTube channel for more content. And as always, go to blueandgold.com for so much more coverage of David Folorunsho's commitment, folks. The Rivals 5-star defensive lineman out of Chicago St. Patrick. I've heard 6'4", 280 for him. He's listed here at 6'3", 285. Charles Power, who does Rivals rankings, told me 6'3", 295. So he's a big boy going into his senior season. You look at the rankings again, the number 9 overall player according to Rivals, number 2 defensive lineman, but a consensus top 100 prospect. He went from I believe, unranked player to just on the cusp of 5-star status in February, and now a Rivals 5-star. So quite a big pickup, Mr. James. What do you see on this young man's film?
Yeah, a very active defensive lineman. You see him playing both defensive tackle and defensive end. He makes more of his plays, flash plays at defensive end, but is clearly making that transition to playing more defensive tackle, where he'll line up at the college level. But extremely quick, explosive, loves to use a rip move, especially as a pass rusher. You see it here a couple of times to start the film, and he's on the quarterback pretty quickly. So a lot to like with him. He works both as a pass rusher and penetrator as a defensive lineman, and he's also very quick in moving down the field. Here's a rep of him chasing down a punt return. Sort of explains how much they trust his athleticism, but the way that he can get side to side, like this play, is very impressive. Just the hustle he has here to track down this quarterback to prevent him from getting into the end zone is quite the effort from David Folorunsho. And so a guy that covers a lot of ground, both vertically and horizontally, has strong hands, really takes advantage of his strength. Using that rip move, he sort of grabs the shoulder of the offensive lineman and then pulls him down and then rips past him. He could extend his arm into a guy like a long arm and sort of take control of an offensive lineman. And even here, you see him, they use him as a blocker, and he blocks guys better than guys block him. That's for sure. So a lot to like about this. Certainly easy to understand why he's a 5-star recruit. I think going into his senior season, love to see just more production from him, see how he handles the interior defensive line work more. You see a clip here of him managing that, and you'll see some clips throughout the highlight reel. But someone that plays with violence, he hits really hard at the ball. Like, he levels some quarterbacks and some running backs in some of these clips, and you like to see that.
Yeah, well, so much to discuss here. You talked about looking ahead to a senior season. You also wonder, which, by the way, how many different numbers does he wear on this film?
Yeah.
His jersey got
I think
lost
that's
a
why
couple
his
times.
stats are so hard to track down.
Yeah, maybe. But you also wonder, like, how do you now play going from an unranked guy who's just looking for attention on the recruiting trail to a 5-star Notre Dame commit? Does that get you at all? Well, I was talking to his head coach, Tom Zbikowski, of course, former star at Notre Dame, and he told me that, like, he's become such a good leader. Like, he takes the young guys under his wing. He seems like he's got a really good head on his shoulders. So I think that he's going to take it all in stride. And when I talked to Zbikowski, he told me something I've never heard before in talking about a recruit. Typically with defensive linemen, it's like you're just really, like, you talk about a lot of raw players who need to get more developed with technique. And while David, I'm sure everyone needs better technique, that's always something you're looking to improve on. But he's like, sometimes Zibito is like, sometimes he focuses a little too much on his technique, and he just needs to just go out and just play football and dominate. I was like, that is a really good thing to hear. It's just like, all right, I'm David Folorunsho. I am better than you. Like, yes,
Yeah.
you want to have great technique, and of course you want to have that to have on every single rep to play with that. But like, sometimes it's like, just go play and dominate at the high school level because I am better than you. Like, I thought that was pretty neat to hear. Tyler, quite the strong recruiting win for Notre Dame. That this came down to Notre Dame, Miami, and Texas Tech. That was also the order, I believe, that this finished in. what I had heard early in his, Notre Dame offered him at the end of January, and he really blew up. I'd say more in the winter. Notre Dame offers the end of January. I had heard from a source that when David was talking, because he set some early official visit dates. Of course, those are all out the window now. He's committed to the Irish, but he had set some early official visit dates, and what I was told is he told Notre Dame, like, no matter what my visit schedule looks like right now, don't you worry, I will put Notre Dame on the list. You guys are my priority for official visits. So when you guys want me to come, I will come. When I heard that, I was like, and then you learn more about him. I was like, this kid's not going to end up anywhere else than Notre Dame. Now, there was a writer who picked him to Texas Tech, Tyler. Miami seemed to have some momentum, but at the end of the day, he visited Notre Dame with Zibby and his school president that also played at Notre Dame, and then he visited the next week with his mom. That was going to be difficult for any other program to overcome. 2 visits and a week. He fits Notre Dame. This was going to be, again, tough for the Irish to lose this recruitment.
Yeah, I think when people hear like Miami and Texas Tech, they're like, oh, well, he's getting bags thrown at him then because of sort of the reputation with those programs. But they also have a reputation of having productive defensive linemen, like in more recent history, right? Like, yeah, you're probably not looking at Texas Tech defensive linemen over the last 10 years, but as of late, they've been playing well up front. Same with Miami on the defensive line. Those teams have guys drafted in the first round of the NFL draft on the defensive line. So it's not just like a financial thing when it comes to some of those teams like that. Obviously, they have that in their favor, and Notre Dame has plenty of money it can throw around as well.
Right.
But for Notre Dame to win against teams that are recruiting at a high level with defensive linemen, I think is important as well, not just sort of the financial aspect, which I think just so frequently gets focused on in this day and age with NIL. But I think it's important that he can see what he can do with Charlie Partridge at Notre Dame and believes in his potential to succeed at Notre Dame.
So, we're at Blue and Gold. We're good friends with Tom Lemming, one of the godfathers of covering college football recruiting. And, he'll tell us all the time, and he'll tell anyone who listens, that Notre Dame has not signed a 5-star interior defensive lineman in, decades. And, I was even looking back at Notre Dame's recruiting history in the internet era, and Stephon Tuitt was a 5-star, but Eric explained to me, he's being recruited as a 3-4 DN. So he's listed as a DN. So talking about a guy who's recruited to come to Notre Dame as a 5-star. Folorunsho is Notre Dame's first, now assuming he sticks as a Rivals 5-star. And typically when we say 5-star, I think we've loosened the term to a point where it's just like 5-star by any of the services, like not just industry ranking or Rivals. Heck, we'll even put ESPN and 24/7 in there. And I believe it still has been, it's at least been the past 23, 24 years when we can look at this data, using the Rivals profile. So it is quite the historical recruiting win. That's 2 5-stars in the week. Olu Babola, the 5-star offensive tackle, according to the Rivals industry ranking, committed to the Irish earlier this week over Texas A&M and Miami. Notre Dame is really stuffing Miami in a locker on the recruiting trail this week. Miami got the best of the Irish last season, and we'll see what happens this November. But on the recruiting trail right now, Notre Dame is getting the best of Miami. So it's a really exciting time to follow Notre Dame recruiting. This page up here, obviously we're recording this video before David announces, so he's not on the commit list right now. But going into the announcement, number 6 class in the country, I'm sure this will push Notre Dame well into the top 5. They started the week, Tyler, at number 10. Of course, they landed Jackson Hill, an offensive tackle from California, on Thursday, a 3-star prospect. The class score of a 92.66 is strong. That is not far off of what they had last year at a 92.96, which was the number 2 class in the country. Like, this is trending to be quite the elite class. You have 17 commitments, and you already have 5 top 100 players. Of course, the 4 on the screen here, plus the commitment today from Folorunsho, and strong blue chip ratio. Again, Tyler, it's a very exciting time to follow Notre Dame recruiting.
Yeah, and no signs of slowing down, right? Like, there's more ahead here in May, and then obviously we'll get into June official visit season, which that's where Notre Dame really made a real big jump last year. Now I think probably we'll come into that into those visits in better position than it was last year. But it'd be interesting to see how hot Notre Dame can get, because it's hard to be much hotter than they are right now.
Yeah.
But there's certainly some more needs remaining, and Notre Dame's seems to be aggressive in piling on guys at positions, right? Like they're not. It doesn't seem that they're being careful in terms of numbers with the defensive line or the offensive line, and that makes sense because Marcus Freeman wants an offensive line, defensive line driven program, and we're really seeing that showing up in recruiting right now.
Yeah, so that's the 17th commit of the class. And, going into this, I mean, how many of those are just this? It's like half the class, I feel like, is this spring.
Right.
They've just been on such a hot streak. Notre Dame is also trending for guys like Leighton Von Brandt, the offensive tackle from Delaware. Like when you get a commitment out of position, man, the dominoes start rolling, snowball effects happening.
Yeah.
So, like Leighton Von Brandt, we like for the Irish. Jackson Vaughn, the defensive end from Bergen Catholic, who reclassified, think that Notre Dame's in a really good spot for him. With Folorunsho committed, does that push some other defensive linemen to commit? Like all eyes will be on Braden Parks from Brother Rice, of course, in Chicago. And, Julius Jones Jr., I had an update on him that you can find on the site. I posted late on Thursday night. Like this, as good as the 2026 class was, Tyler, 2027, I think the class score-wise could be better. Now, is it going to equal number 2 or top number 2? Top number 2. I don't know. Maybe not. But this class score, like what the grade actually is of the class, I think it might be better this year, which would be damn impressive.
Yeah, that would be quite impressive when you think about all the 5 stars that they ended up with in the class at the end of the cycle. We'll see if they can match that total. But even if you don't have those 5 stars, if you have a bunch of top 100 guys, that matters too.
That's kind of what I think. I think it might be deeper. Like I think the blue chip ratio, because the last year's blue chip ratio was strong. Right now you have, of your 16 commits, 12 of them are a 4 or a 5 star. Of the 30 last year, 21 were blue chips. So that's what, like 60 or 70% or so. So I think this year, I think it might be closer to 80.
That would be impressive.
All right, folks, that is going to do it for this video. It's a very exciting time for Notre Dame recruiting. They are heating up, Tyler. Trying to tell the people. Here we are. Hit the thumbs up on this video. Again, go to blueandgold.com for so much more information. Interview with Folorunsho. Interview with Zibikowski, Tyler James, film room. If you want more analysis from Tyler, Cal Kelly's 5 thoughts on the commitments. And if you missed his announcement, he did announce it with Rivals. And then some guy named Mike Singer popped on the stream as well to talk about it. So make sure you watch that video if you want even more YouTube content talking about David Folorunsho, Rivals 5-star defensive lineman, picking the Irish. Thank you all for watching. And as always, we will catch you next time.